Rob and Slim Show.
Hello?
Rob and Slim Show.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
What's going on?
This is James D. Shoemaker the third, right?
This is James D. Schumacher III, correct.
How you doing, dude?
I am doing fantastic. A little tired, but I'm doing great, actually.
That's
How are
cool.
you?
We're doing good. We're on our season finale tonight, and it's great. I checked out some of your graphic novel, Inheritance. It was amazing, dude.
Awesome. I really appreciate that.
Thanks.
I really do.
And real quick, just to like summarize it, well, it's a family that's plagued by like demons, right?
It's a multi-generational story of a
Yeah.
family struggling to control an insidious lineage. That insidious lineage happens to be a great-grandfather who's been dead for 40 years, who's hell-bent on returning into the world to finally eradicate the last remnants of his family. And it deals with that sort of conflict set against the very real human story of a mother and son learning to reconnect with each other as the mother is dying of cancer.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah.
wow. That sounds really cool.
And I love to. This is just like that's your inheritance. You're just plagued by.
Right.
It's great.
Like Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
The
curse.
Now,
curse,
is it based on true stories?
It is, actually. It's based on my mother and I's relationship. I was raised in a very paranormally active family, and I've witnessed some of the stuff that comes with a family kind of like dealing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that, and I was like, what can I kind of do with this kind of a story that really hasn't been done?
That's cool.
And then from a very young age, I was 12 years old when we were first told by my mother and father that my mother was really, really terminally ill with cancer. And as a 12-year-old kid, that completely changed my entire worldview. It went from like wanting to do, like I want toys, I want this, I want to go play sports, to the world's ended, your mother's going to die, there's a finality to life now.
Yeah.
And then over she died when I was 27 years old after 3 bouts of cancer, if I'm correct.
Oh, wow.
And during the last 2 days of her life, she called me over and said, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. I was like, okay, what's up? She's like, I'm dying. I'm like, no, you're not. She's like, no. She's like, I'm dying. And I was like, oh, no. And then she started to cry, and we went through these, it still sucks to talk about this 6 years on. She started telling me, the last thing she ever told me was, as I was leaving her room, she said, hey, Bo, my nickname with her was always Bo, and she said, I want you to, no matter how hard it gets, no matter what stands in your way, don't quit filmmaking and don't quit writing. Wow. And I told her, and I wish to this day that I had stayed longer, because I had no idea that would be the last thing she would ever tell me.
Wow.
And the year after her death, I literally imploded my entire life. I couldn't figure out what was up, what was down, what was left and right. And when I came out of the fog, I had this idea, and this idea of seeing a mother and a son reconnecting. And I took that last 2 days, that last conversation we had 2 days before her death, and I distilled it into the first script for Inheritance.
Wow, because that was kind of in the prologue I read too. You saw him visiting his mother in the hospital.
Oh, wow.
The one character.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Well,
awesome.
It's like the idea of like a spirit coming to visit you came from my mother in that last conversation. One of the things she talked about was she loved the show Doogie Howser. And this conversation she had with me, she's like, so there's like this Doogie Howser kind of doctor who came by and told me I was going to die. I was like, well, no, doesn't know what he's talking about. Don't worry about it. And then she passed away, and I remember distinctly at her funeral, or right after her funeral, and I asked my dad, I was like, who's this doctor? So I can go beat him within an inch of his life and not telling the family. And my dad's like, your mother never had a doctor that would come to the house. Your mother told me that a doctor was entering through her closet and was exiting through her closet.
Wow.
Wow.
It's weird.
And that stuck through that. God.
I have an uncle who died a couple years ago now, and but when his son was born, his son was about 2 years old, I think, and one morning, my Uncle Brian woke up and my cousin Kyle knew how to count or something that he never knew before. And he said, how'd you learn this? And he said, Poppy taught me. And that was my grandfather who died when I was in second grade.
Wow.
So, like, he never knew. He was never alive. And he said, Poppy taught me last night. He came in the room and my uncle was just like, my Uncle Brian was just like, that's just crazy. Like, but he never would have known.
Yeah, that's like how
he was Poppy. Like, he knew his name and all. Like, there's something to that. Like,
I got a crazy story. This is like my, I had this, it was either my great-great-grandfather or it was his brother. But he was, this was back in Italy, back around the turn of the century. And
Wow.
he was... So this guy was married, he had a kid, his wife ended up dying in childbirth, and when the kid was like 6 years old, the kid fell off a ladder, broke his neck. So he apparently went through a psychotic breakdown. He at one point he even dug their bones out of the crypt at one point. They caught him holding his dead wife in his arms.
wow.
But one time, as he was dragging away, he was saying, "I want to speak to the devil himself" or something. And after he had, he'd gone on with his life, he remarried. He was in a train station, and this was years later.
Yeah.
And he saw this guy in a trench coat, and when he got up close to him, he saw that the guy had cloven hooves and a long tail. The guy had a hat. And
Krampus.
he saw something weird. This was
Wow.
And this was many years later. This wasn't this was after he had remarried. He had I guess it was my great grandfather he had or something. I'm not sure what the story was, but
Wow.
James, oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask, how long have you worked on this? Do you, the inheritance? Do you have a definitive ending to it yet, or do you just write it as you go along?
I have a definitive ending. When I tend to come up with stories, because I was a filmmaker by trade first, and then I began to expand into doing comics, and my extremely talented storyboard artist friend of mine, James Burton, who's the artist on Inheritance, I sent him over the script for Inheritance, and he took a look at it and was like, why are we not doing this now?
Wow.
And we kind of started going with it from there. And when I did the first prologue issue, I was like, okay, let's do something that everybody can kind of get behind, people will kind of love. And then as soon as they get into the first issue of The Binding of Three, then it's balls to the wall, straight up the middle horror. But it's done in a way that's very much like the old school horror movie from the 40s, 50s, and 60s. It's not like the modern day slasher where everybody's stabbed and blood spraying everywhere. So when I conceived of this idea, I conceived of there would be a totality to it. There would be a definite ending.
Wow.
That's cool. These two characters would reach a point where their stories would end very much like all of ours would like. Because I'm not a fan of I see too many people constantly, especially in Marvel and DC, they're rebooting everything. Hollywood's rebooting everything. It's just we've lost the ability to kind of let a series kind of stop and just go, okay, stop.
Yeah.
No more from this world, no more from these characters. You've seen it. And I wanted to set out to accomplish an idea, and we have, because we get people talking about it. Create a horror film that is emotionally touching to people. Or horror books are, a horror comic book that is emotionally evocative and touches people in a way that no other horror books or horror movies have.
Well, I was going to ask, too, if you were planning on making it into an animation or a film.
Yeah, that's actually part of the process later on down the line.
Cool.
It's not something we're focusing on right now.
Yeah.
Because these books are mammoth. They're not your average size books. And they're not your average size comic books either. It's we get people coming to our tables. We have been to numerous Comic-Cons, and we have sold out every single Comic-Con.
I saw pictures. That was cool. And I saw that you guys won an award, too, from a convention.
Are you guys going to be at New York Comic-Con in October?
We are, actually. We are. We're more than likely going to be announcing a couple of the new plans for Inheritance at New York City Comic-Con. Our next Comic-Con appearance is at MarshallCon. not Marshall Con, excuse me, Eternal Con, June 10th, 11th, and 12th in Garden City. So we have a full table there. But New York City Comic Con is definitely on our list, and we're so excited to actually go to that one because
that one.
I
think that one and San Diego are the two biggest ones.
Yeah, I think so.
The New York one, I think, is newer too, because I remember when we went to it years ago, and it was like small compared to what it is now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's you meet an incredible amount of fans, and it's Inheritance's fans have been blowing away our publisher, because our publishers are okay, great. It's going to be predominantly males. And it's going to be, and then there's going to be some a bit of the female demographic coming into it. I'm like, you guys are wrong. Trust me. You're going to see it, and it's 50-50. It's 50% men, 50% female.
Wow.
That come in and like connect to the book, because you have two timelines. One is the 1950s, which deals with a little girl, and then you have one that is in the present that deals with her son, who's a motorcycle mechanic, who's a beer drinking, like drug taking guy who wants to avoid any sort of like coming to terms with his mother and getting really close to her as she's dying. So it gives different people from different backgrounds something to connect to.
Is the Bean character, the girl, is that in the 50s, that scene where she's going in the basement?
That is the 50s.
Oh, that's amazing. They're all, it starts out and they're all the kids are up in the kitchen or whatever, and if you go down to the basement, if you step on the bottom step and pull the light switch on, supposedly you see some stuff, and they're telling her, go down, we'll go down with you. And the minute she goes on the stairs, they lock her down there, and she has to do it to come back up. But then she gets down, she pulls the cord, and these graves open up in the basement, and like she's just screaming, trying to get up, and they can't even open the door, and they get the dad, right, James, and he tries to open it, but it won't open, and she's like clawing the stairs, and you see her nails just like shredding, like making like sawdust or shreds of the wood, and then her nails break off. And the demon's pulling her down the stairs. It's crazy.
We did when I talked to James. We did our first meetings and the initial setups of Inheritance. I was like, let's do something different. Let's do something that pushes. Because I mean, practically everything has been done in horror. It's this adage you have in all creatives. And then there is nothing original anymore. You just find your own take on it. Find the way of doing it.
Yeah.
When we do Inheritance, I literally push us to break any kind of trend, any kind of like cliched kind of a setup, because everybody's done it. I'm like, let's figure out something. So like the Binding of Three issue 1, everybody's going to expect us to go right back 10 minutes after that, and we're going to see what happened to their parents and all that stuff, and instead we start completely different.
Yeah.
And we change what people perceive as to what comes next. And the whole book, we've gotten reviews back where my favorite review back we ever got was Superhero Speak compared it to the Twilight Zone. That was huge for me because I watched the Twilight Zone when I was a kid with my mom. And I was like, okay, great. People are identifying that this book is not your traditional horror story.
That's cool.
It's going to be completely different with how you would approach it. You're dealing with two people. You're dealing with there's two timelines that tend to mirror each other. That you're seeing a family in the 1950s as their great-grandfathers coming back into the world to like completely use blood atonement on the rest of his family to kill them. And then you see the repercussions of that in the present day as Bean's son, Sterling, is trying to find his way in the world and trying to find the truth in his own life. And in doing so, he ushers in his great-grandfather's exorcised spirit to come back into the world to hopefully kill the last two members of the family.
Wow.
So you see things mirroring each other.
Why does his grandfather want to kill his family? Is there a story behind that too, or is that something you have?
There is indeed.
How many?
You'll have to wait to the other book.
I was gonna say how many issues have been released at this point?
We just finished up the artwork on issue 2, so it's going to be lettered here in the next month. That releases in August, if I'm correct on the dates. I probably am. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
Issue 3 comes out around Christmas, and when it comes out around Christmas, it's going to be combined into a trade. and that trade will be released in Barnes and Nobles, and then from that point on, all additional books will come out as trades in Barnes and Noble. So instead of getting a 30-page comic book that you have in your hand, you get a 100 to 120-page trade that gives you a lot of story and gives you something to kind of like gravitate towards.
That's cool.
So it kind of softens the weight between books.
Yeah, that's
Because
awesome.
we get emails now. We still get people emailing us, when's the next book? When's it coming out? We want to see more. We're like, cool, great. This is insane.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I mean, we get people coming up to our table that, I mean, because James, my artist, the phenomenal co-creator on this, as a joke, he survived terminal cancer, stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, at the same time my mother passed away.
Wow.
So a lot of the chemotherapy and the inheritance books triggers post-traumatic stress, because we literally take people in issue 1 all the way through the final book of the first series through every single stage of cancer and what it does to somebody, what it does to their family members. And James is just like, ugh. He's like, no, I hate you, but he's like, let's do it. And we get people that, like, we had a fan actually. I couldn't make the trip, but I decided to like stick my hand in really hot oil. We had someone meet up with the artist and co-creator James at a signing event, and they had talked to James, and lo and behold, it was, I think it was like an 18 or 19-year-old cancer survivor.
Wow.
That looked at inheritance and was like, okay, there is something beyond cancer. Because that's ultimately what we feel, because I've seen it with my mother. James has experienced it firsthand, is that so many people get caught up in the diagnosis of cancer and being told you're going to die, and it's so easy to lose hope in the world, and you just go, okay, cool. And you don't want to see what's beyond it. My mother spent her entire life fighting cancer.
My grandfather, he had it in his lung, and then they got rid of that, and then, like, I don't remember how much later, it wasn't long later, they found it in his bone, and that was just the end of it. Like, once you have bone, it's really hard.
Oh, I had a grandfather that lived to like 97 with bone cancer.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it just didn't do anything. It just
wow, because that's usually just
sat among his spine. He's just crazy.
But I had a great uncle too, and yeah, he got diagnosed with it. They gave him like 3 months to live, and he ended up living like 20 more years. Like he just.
It's like my mother always said, she's like, it's always about what your outlook on it is. Like the first time, she's like, I'm going to beat it, and she was one of 6 women inside of a breast cancer group that was they're all doing chemotherapy and all this. This was back in 95, if I'm correct. She was the only one that survived chemotherapy.
Wow.
Everyone else died. And my mother always said, she's like, it's all about your mindset. And then the last time my mother fought cancer, she had a bunch of stuff happen with her family. She was suffering from the loss of her mom. Numerous surgeries on her neck was causing so much pain that when this cancer came next time, it was brutal.
Wow.
It was like watching my mother in a ring, literally being beaten. And I'm like, holy God, this is completely different.
Wow.
And I was like, and it was brutal for my little sister, because my little sister was like, I think she was probably the same age I was when my mom fought cancer the first time. And this is part of inheritance. Is literally my way of continuing my mother's story, is continuing her legacy and giving her something more to kind of exist with.
That makes you think too. Oh, I'm sorry, James.
No, go ahead.
I was thinking, like, too, when you first explained it like that, I was thinking of the opening scene of Guardians of the Galaxy when the mother was dying of the cancer in the hospital, and I took my sons to see it, and when he wouldn't hold her hand, when she was asking him to hold her hand, and he ran out of the hospital, and my son was like, Daddy, why wouldn't he hold her hand? I'm like, he was just upset she was dying, like,
right.
It bothered him, like, you know.
It's hard. It's really hard to explain to people what it's like to see someone that you looked up to your entire life. Because my dad worked so much. My mother was the only person I ever really connected to.
Yeah, that was the same with me, I'd say. My mom was always around.
And it was more so my sisters connected more to my dad. And I remember my entire life I would write stuff. And my mother would give me the straight dope, as she would say. And she would tell me, this is utter crap. This is great. Fix this, fix that. I was like 12 years old going, great, because she was a writer in the college. She majored in writing and business. So like, to go from having somebody that I would call every single day, and who would call me every day. I mean, the day that I found out she passed away, I got up and I was going to go, something fell off. I went to go to the gym. I was like, cool. So I was eating oatmeal, and it was at like 7:15 in the morning. And my mother never once called me at 7:15 in the morning. She would call me constantly around like noon.
Yeah.
So that's when she would kind of like get going and stuff. And 7:15 in the morning, a military man, my father, calls me on her phone. Wow. And his way of saying that he loved me was, hey, you. That's literally his way. Hey, you, come here. I was like, okay. For the first time ever, and he hasn't called me since, he said, baby, your mom died.
Oh, wow.
And I don't remember 20 minutes of my life. I remember getting to my parents' house and looking at the front of my car going, no dead people. We're good. No blood. And I get in there, and I just remember that feeling of the world just kind of just draining out of me. I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm now almost to being an orphan is how I looked at it at the time. Because you're now starting to realize that the world is tightening up around you. And these two people that were supermen to you and superwomen are no longer super. And it's just, whew. So it's like, that's my biggest regret of inheritance. It's not that, like, we hate the art, we love the art, we hate the stories, we love the stories. My regret is that it was never done. It was never done in time to see, for my mother to physically hold it.
Wow. Yeah.
And go, I still do that. I'll still talk to her when I'm driving somewhere. Like, hey, this is happening. And some people may look at it as crazy. I look at it as like, I believe that she's there.
I think that's cool. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because there's, and that's ultimately one of the things she had talked about, like in the years before she died. She wanted to do a comic book, something that kids could get a hold of and kind of engage in.
Wow.
And we did it. We just did it 5 years too late.
Yeah. Was she an author too, you said?
Yep.
Wow. That's amazing.
She was in the process of having a couple of her books kind of like published and stuff like that when she got hit with cancer. And then she wrote a memoir a while back, and that memoir ended up turning her family against her because they thought she made billions of dollars, which was stupid.
Right.
I just remember her going, ugh. And she's like looking at her dollar in front of her going, yeah, no. And it's this great thing that, like, when we talk to people at cons, we don't sit there and just like go buy the book, buy the book, buy the book. People ask us questions about it.
That's
and
really cool.
When people tend to realize that the material is based on real life, it's not like an autobiography, but there's real life emotions built into it. People tend to gravitate towards that stuff more.
That's what I was surprised when you said that was what was the real story. I thought maybe it was like, you talk to people that had paranormal experiences or something. I didn't realize that was what it was based on. That's a it's not a great story, but it's great that you can put it in that and you could portray it in this story.
Yeah, it provides. Again, it comes back to showing people that you can transcend any kind of pain that's in your life, because it doesn't matter if it's losing a family member or losing a dog or losing a job or something. When you're stuck in it and you can't see above water, you're just like, you want to give up.
Yeah.
You do. There are times where I'm just going to give up. There's times now where every one of us, even the big guys, the guys that have succeeded, like Frank Miller, I guarantee you there's times where he's like, why am I doing this? I should give up.
Yeah.
But it's being able to push through whatever pain that's in front of you and harness it. turn it into something good. And that's what's literally led Inheritance to selling out every single Comic-Con. And I mean, we've sold out everywhere.
Wow.
We just sold out our newest print, and the publisher had to rush prints. Rush to order prints. They're just like, okay, this is interesting.
James, we have to wrap this up, but where can everybody find Inheritance?
Everybody can find Inheritance at outpouringcomics.com/inheritance. Or if they want to follow us on Twitter, they can find us at twitter.com/inheritnovel.
Awesome. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Have a great night.
You too.
Take care, man.
I was about to say, and watch out for Jan Michael Nemeth.
Yeah, I think he's already there. He doesn't have to worry because he's already got his story out.
Yeah.
So Michael Nemeth won't be selling his stories.
That was really interesting. It's just something about work when it comes to when somebody puts a real heart and emotion
that's what I said. That's not what I was expecting because I saw on the first page of the prologue it said based on real stories. Actually, Jules pointed it out.
And you thought, that people were seeing ghosts or whatever.
I thought maybe it was something like he talked to somebody or had it in his family, paranormal thing or something. Yeah, but
it was just,
that brings it to another level. That makes it even. That's what I'm saying. That's your own story.
That really makes me curious about the grandfather. What was he doing?
Yeah, no, that's what I figured. When you asked that, I figured it wasn't in the story already.
To become a demon, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I'm
I'll have to check that out.
Is he doing it to stop the cycle or what?
Pete and I were talking about going to Comic-Con in New York in October, so we'll have to check that, make sure we're at that guy's booth when we go. But all right, guys, we're going to break. We will be back.
Couple minutes with Isaac Thorne.